So you are able to see my screen, Shweta?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So if there is any problem in between, then you let me know. So today's
Okay, ma'am.
class I will be talking about PT management of lumbar spondylolisthesis. Okay? The screen is visible, right? The screen is visible, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. So spondylolisthesis. What is spondylolisthesis? Degenerative spondylolisthesis is a disorder that causes the slip of one vertebral body over the one below due to degenerative changes in the spine. So in the degenerative spondylolisthesis, the whole upper vertebra or the vertebral body and the posterior part of the vertebra, including neural arch and processes, slips relative to the lower vertebra. So what happens? One vertebral body slides over the another. It can slide either anteriorly or it can slide posteriorly. But there is sliding of the vertebra one over the another. So you can see in this picture, this image is visible, Shweta, on your screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what is happening? One vertebral level, for example, in case of lumbar spine, we have L1, L2, L3, L4 and L5. So if L4 or L5 is moving ahead, is moving anteriorly over the inferior vertebra, then it is called as spondylolisthesis. So this occurs most commonly at the L4 and L5 level. The L4, L5 level is affected 6 to 9 times more common than the other spinal level. So most commonly L4, L5 level of the lumbar region is affected by this lumbar spondylolisthesis. It is the major cause of spinal canal stenosis and it is commonly seen in elderly people. So elderly population is more prone to have spondylolisthesis. Why? Because they will have ligament laxity as well as they will have muscular imbalance. They will have uh, less muscle strength compared to adults. Pars interarticularis is intact but the facet joints degenerate. So there will be degeneration of the facet joint that can also lead to spondylolisthesis. So what are the causes? What causes spondylolisthesis? Arthritis of the facet joint with loss of their normal structural support, malfunction of the ligament. So if ligaments are becoming lax, okay, hyperlaxity is there in the ligament, then it will not support the spinal structures properly. So that will cause the spondylolisthesis. Ineffectual muscular stabilization. Actually, your muscles are stabilizing your body. Okay, any segment of the lumbar spine, if you see, we have the two lumbar vertebrae. In between, we have the intervertebral disc, and we have the muscles which are supporting the lumbar spine. But if the muscles are weak, then it is not providing proper stabilization to the spine. Then also spondylolisthesis can result. So what are the signs and symptoms? Suppose if a patient is having spondylolisthesis, then what signs and symptoms the patient will complain of? Okay, if they are coming to OPD, what complaints they will tell us? So they will have back pain. They can have radiation, okay, into posterior lateral thighs. So radiation of the pain will be there. That pain will be in the lumbar region, posterior aspect of the thigh, into the calf muscle, and even the sole of the feet. Pain may be diffuse in the lower extremities involving L4, L5 and or L4 roots unilaterally or bilaterally. See, depending on the structures involved, see, bilateral nerve roots are getting compressed, then the patient will have bilateral symptoms. If only one side of the nerve root is getting compressed, then patient will have unilateral radiation of the pain. One of the most characteristic symptom of degenerative spondylolisthesis with stenosis is leg pain that shifts from side to side. So sometimes what will happen, maybe the patient will initially have radiation of the pain onto the right side of the limb, but later on they will have radiation also on the left side, and it can shift. The pain and the symptoms can shift from one side to the other side. Monoradiculopathy is the less common type of leg pain. When present, it is the result of entrapment of the L5 root in the lateral recess. So monoradiculopathy means only one side of the nerve root is compressed and that is giving radiation to the leg, thigh muscles, leg muscles as well as the sole of the feet. Neurogenic claudication can be present. See, if the patient is having spondylolisthesis, then neurogenic type of claudication may be present. Patient may have cold feet and altered gait. So gait will be abnormal. Why gait will be abnormal? Because of anterolisthesis or retrolisthesis of the lumbar vertebra. Their muscles can be weak. If there is radiculopathy, then patient will have tingling and numbness going down the leg. They will also have the muscle weakness, and because of all this, their gait pattern will be altered. Next is the diagnosis. So radiographic features include the essential finding on a lateral view of the forward displacement of L4 on L5, or more rarely L5 on S1 or L3 on L4 in the presence of an intact neural arch. So basically how we are diagnosing this lumbar spondylolisthesis? We are diagnosing by taking the X-ray. If we take the lateral view of the X-ray, then we can see, suppose L5 is having spondylolisthesis on S1, so L5 is slipping forward on S1, L4 is slipping forward on L5, or L3 is slipping forward on L4, so that we can see on the lateral view of the X-ray. So we have to take the X-ray of the lumbar spine, mainly the lateral view, which will give us a clear idea whether the patient is having spondylolisthesis or not. Defect of pars interarticularis that can be seen on the lateral or bilateral oblique views helps to distinguish between the degenerative spondylolisthesis and ischemic spondylolisthesis. So CT scan also can be taken. MRI can be taken. If we take MRI or CT scan also, that will also give us confirmation if the patient is having spondylolisthesis. MRI is a non-invasive technique that can also define vertebral slippage and neural element compression through cross-sectional axial and sagittal imaging. So let us see. This is the picture showing L4, L5 spondylolisthesis. So you can, if you can see here, can you see my arrow on the screen, Shweta?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is your L4 vertebra, this is your L5 vertebra. So here in this spinal image, we can see that this is the L4 vertebra. L4 vertebra has anteriorly slipped, okay. There is forward movement of the L4 vertebra over the L5 vertebra. So this is the L5 vertebra and this is the L4 vertebra. So what will happen in the spondylolisthesis? L4 vertebra will slip forward, L4 vertebra will slide anteriorly on the L5 vertebra. So this is called as the L4, L5 spondylolisthesis. Okay, and here in this image we can see L4 vertebra has moved anteriorly. See, this is the border, this is the anterior border of the L5 and this is the anterior border of the L4. So you can see this much amount, this much degree anteriorly L4 has moved. So this is the L4 L5 spondylolisthesis. So you can see retrolisthesis. What we have seen in the previous slide was the anterolisthesis. Anterolisthesis means the vertebral body is moving forward. But here what we are seeing is the retrolisthesis. That means it is moving posteriorly. So this is the retrolisthesis of L4 on L5. So here you can see this is the L5 vertebra. This is the anterior border of the L5 vertebra, and here you can see L4 vertebra has moved posteriorly. Okay, that is why it is called as retrolisthesis of the L4 on the L5. So there are two differences you can see here. This is the anterolisthesis of L4 over L5 vertebra, and this you can see this is the retrolisthesis of the L4 vertebra on the L5. So retrolisthesis means if the vertebral body is moving posteriorly, then it is called as the retrolisthesis. Next, grading. So spondylolisthesis can be graded according to how much amount of the vertebral body has moved anteriorly or posteriorly. So the method of Meyerding, the antero-posterior diameter of the superior surface of the lower vertebral body is divided into quarters, and a grade of first to fourth is assigned to slips of 1, 2, 3 and 4 quarters of the superior vertebra respectively. So let us see how they are grading. So according to Meyerding scale, grade 1 means, here on the left hand side you can see the grade 5 grades are there. On the right hand side, we can see amount of subluxation. So grade 1 means less than 25% body of the vertebra has slipped. Grade 2 means 25 to 50% of the vertebral body has slipped. Grade 3 means 50 to 75% of the vertebral body has slipped. Grade 4 means 75 to 100% of the vertebral body has slipped. And grade 5 means more than 100% of the vertebral body has slipped. That is also called as spondyloptosis. So let us see. This is the picture. The picture is visible, Shweta, on your screen. Hello. So you can see spine without spondylolisthesis. Here you can see there is normal spine. In the second picture, we can see the grade 1 spine with spondylolisthesis, that is the 25% of the slip. In the third picture, we can see 50% of the slip, grade 2 spine with spondylolisthesis. And here grade 3 spine with spondylolisthesis, 75% of the slip. And here you can see grade 4 spine with spondylolisthesis, 100% of the slip. And here you can see grade 5 spine with spondylolisthesis. So once again, hello. Hello, you can hear me, Shweta? Haniksha, you can switch on your audio.
Yes, ma'am.
You can hear me, right? Okay. So I will share the screen again. So you are able to see my screen now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay, fine. So I was talking about the grades of the listhesis. Fine. So as you can see here, this picture is showing the grades. Meierding scale, there are 5 grades, grade 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Okay, depending on how much percentage of the vertebral body has slipped forward. You are able to see my PPT right on your screen, Haniksha?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. So you can see in this picture, I will explain again. So the first picture is showing the normal spine. In the second picture, we can see 25% of the slip is present. That is grade 1 spondylolisthesis. Here you can see L5 has slipped forward. So that is 50% of the slip. That is called as grade 2 spondylolisthesis. Here you can see 75% of the slip. So this L5 has moved forward. That is grade 3 spine with spondylolisthesis. Here you can see 100% of the slip. So grade 4 spine with spondylolisthesis. Here you can see it is completely off. So that is why it is called as grade 5 spine with spondylolisthesis. So next treatment, 76% of the patient who were initially neurologically intact did not deteriorate over time. This patient may be treated with conservatively. So mainly first we can treat conservative trial we can give. Okay, so we can give exercise, we can give rest advice, and then we can start with some painkiller medication. We can do some gentle exercises. So first conservative trial should be given to the patient, and then 83% of the patient with the history of neurogenic claudication or vesicorectal symptom deteriorated with poor final outcome, and this patient should preferably have surgical intervention. in treatment. So surgical intervention, when it should be given, when the patient is having neurological condition. So neurological condition is present, patient is having radiating symptoms in the thigh, in the leg, and it is deteriorating. The condition is deteriorating with time. It is a progressive condition. Then we have to think of the surgical option. So what are the indication of the surgery? The PPT is visible on the screen, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what are the indication when can advise the patient to go for the surgery? So persistent or recurrent back or leg pain or neurogenic claudication, progressive neurological deficit, and bladder and bowel symptoms. So if the patient is having any of these symptoms, they are having leg pain, they are having pain in the thigh, neurogenic claudication is present, progressive neurological deficit is there. That means, suppose previously the patient was experiencing the symptoms only in the posterior aspect of the thigh, but now over the period of time, patient started developing symptoms in the posterior calf muscle as well as the sole of the feet. Then we have to think for the surgery. Bladder and bowel symptoms are present, then also we have to think for the surgery. So non-operative treatment is the mainstay of the treatment for low back pain and should be the initial course of action in most cases of spondylolisthesis with or without neurological symptom. So what they are trying to tell us is, first of all, we have to try to give the conservative treatment to the patient. So whether or not patient is having neurological symptoms or not, first we have to give conservative treatment. If the trial of conservative treatment fails, then only we have to think for the surgery, because always surgery has its own advantages and disadvantages. After the surgical procedure also there can be so many complications that can develop. That is why first we prefer to give conservative treatment. So physiotherapy, what all things we can do for physiotherapy in case of lumbar spondylolisthesis? We can give pain relief, bracing, exercise, ultrasound, electrical stimulation, activity modification can be given. So goals, what should be the goals of the physiotherapy treatment? To reduce the pain, to restore the range of motion and function, to strengthen and stabilize the spine, to restore mobility of the neural tissue. These should be the goals of the physiotherapy treatment. So also we have to strengthen and stabilize the spine. So we have to give the muscular strengthening exercises. We have to give the core muscle strengthening exercise, abdominal muscle strengthening exercise, as well as back extensor strengthening exercise. So if the muscles of the spine are strong, then it will support the spine properly and the chances of recurrence will be less. So aims of non-surgical treatment should focus on improvement of spinal segmental stability and relieving the neurological symptom that is caused by spinal stenosis associated with degenerative spondylolisthesis. So stabilization exercises. So O'Sullivan, this was a study done. This study found that individuals with chronic low back pain and a radiological diagnosis of spondylolisthesis or spondylolysis who underwent a 10-week specific exercise treatment program involving the specific training of the deep abdominal muscles with co-activation of the lumbar multifidus proximal to the pars defect showed a statistically significant reduction in pain intensity and functional disability level. So they are telling that if we are giving the strengthening exercise for the deep abdominal muscles and the multifidus muscles training, then this kind of stabilization exercise will improve the condition of the patient. So you can see here what is happening during extension and flexion. The picture is visible on your mobile screen, Haniksha and Shweta.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So you can see on the left hand side, we are seeing the extension movement. So when we are going for extension movement, the spine moves anteriorly, the vertebral body moves anteriorly. When we are performing the extension movement of the lumbar spine, the movement of the vertebral body is in the anterior direction. And here you can see when we are going for the flexion, the right hand side picture shows that when we are going for the lumbar flexion movement, the vertebral body moves posteriorly. So now here is the normal biomechanics. Okay, what is happening during flexion and extension? So during flexion of the spine, we can see flexion we are doing, then this is the anterior aspect, this is the posterior aspect. So anterior aspect will be compressed, posterior aspect will be stretched. So this is what happens in the lumbar spine. Next you can see extension. So what is happening in the extension? We can see this is the anterior aspect, this is posterior aspect. So anterior structures will get stretched and posterior structures will get compressed. So this is what is happening in the extension. Now, whether you will give flexion exercises or extension exercises in case of spondylolisthesis. So, if anterolisthesis is there, then we will give flexion exercises. Why? Because extension causes further anterior movement of the vertebra. And if in case of anterolisthesis, the spine is already anterior, okay, the spine, the vertebral body has already moved anteriorly. So if you give extension exercise, then further the spine, lumbar, vertebral body will move anterior. So that is why we will go with the flexion exercise. And in case of retrolisthesis means the vertebral body has moved posteriorly. So in that case, we will give the extension exercise. Why? Because flexion causes further posterior movement of the vertebra. Okay, so retrolisthesis, we will give the extension exercises. So please remember, you have to take the X-ray. On the X-ray, you have to check whether the patient is having anterolisthesis or posteriorlisthesis, and depending on that, you have to decide whether you will give flexion exercise or extension exercise. So please keep that in mind. There is no fixed criteria for spondylolisthesis that you have to go with flexion or you have to go with extension exercise. Depending on whether it is anterolisthesis or retrolisthesis, depending on that you will decide whether you will give flexion exercise or extension exercise. Okay. Next, core muscle strengthening you have to do, because if your core muscles are strong, then it will support the spine, and if it is supporting the spine, then the chances of recurrence will be less, and if the muscles and the ligaments around the spine is strong, then the chances of retrolisthesis or anterolisthesis will be minimum. So you can see what we can do. In the crook lying position, we can give isometric contraction of the abdomen, planks can be performed, bridging exercise can be done, advanced bridging, that is one leg is touching the couch and other leg is performing the SLR, that can be performed. Bridges with a stability wall can be performed. So core exercise, strengthening of the core muscles should be performed when the patient is having spondylolisthesis. So remember, what is the goal? Main goal for the physiotherapy treatment is to reduce the pain of the patient, to strengthen the muscles of the core, and to improve the range of motion. Okay, so here you can see extension and flexion is seen in the picture. So picture A is showing the extension movement. So posteriorly narrowing of the intervertebral foramen and anteriorly migration of the nucleus pulposus during extension movement. And during flexion movement, what is happening? Posterior migration of the nucleus pulposus and widening of the intervertebral foramen. So that is what? So when we are performing the extension movement, the vertebral body is moving anteriorly. When we are performing the flexion movement, the vertebral body and the intervertebral disc is moving posteriorly. So that is why, depending on whether it is anterolisthesis or posteriorlisthesis, we have to decide the treatment protocol, that we will give flexion exercise or extension exercise. So thank you. This is all for today. But be here. Don't go.